What if the person you spent 15 years hunting, the monster you finally put behind bars, the killer you watched sentenced to death, wasn't guilty? What if you realized it the moment the needle went into their arm? This is that story, and it will haunt you. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy true crime stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who loves it too. Detective Marcus Hale had seen evil before. 23 years on the force in Portland, Oregon, and he thought he knew what human darkness looked like. But nothing prepared him for the Riverside Strangler case. Between March and August of 2009, 4 young women vanished from the streets near the Willamette River. All college students. All brunette. All found weeks later, strangled, dumped in the woods with a single white ribbon tied around their wrist. The city was terrified. Parents pulled their daughters out of school. The mayor held emergency press conferences. And Marcus Hale became obsessed. He worked 18-hour days, skipped meals, barely saw his wife. This wasn't just another case. This was personal. His own daughter was 22, brunette, studying at Portland State. Every victim could have been her. Then came the break. A jogger found a torn piece of fabric near the 4th victim's body. Forensics matched it to a maintenance uniform from Riverside Community College. Security footage showed a man in that uniform talking to 2 of the victims days before they disappeared. His name was Daniel Marsh. 41 years old, divorced, lived alone in a basement apartment 3 blocks from the river. When Marcus and his team raided Daniel's apartment, they found a box under the bed. Inside, 4 white ribbons, identical to the ones found on the victims. Daniel claimed he bought them for his niece's birthday, but he had no niece. No family at all. His alibi for the nights the women vanished: he was home alone. No witnesses. No proof. The evidence was circumstantial, but it was enough. The ribbons, the uniform, the proximity to the crimes, the lack of alibi. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. For death sentences. Daniel Marsh screamed in the courtroom that he was innocent, that someone was framing him. But Marcus had heard it all before. They always claimed innocence. 15 years passed. Daniel exhausted his appeals. Marcus retired but never forgot the case. It defined his career. The Riverside Strangler was his greatest achievement, his darkest memory. He'd saved countless lives by stopping that monster. Then came the call. March 14th, 2024. The execution was scheduled for 11 p.m. The warden asked if Marcus wanted to attend as a witness. Protocol for the lead detective. Marcus hesitated, but said yes. He owed it to the families. He owed it to himself. The execution chamber was cold, clinical, fluorescent. Marcus sat behind the glass with the victims' families. Daniel Marsh was brought in, strapped to the table. His eyes scanned the room and locked onto Marcus. No anger. No hatred. Just sadness. Deep, hollow sadness. The warden read the sentence. Daniel was given his final words. He looked directly at Marcus and said, "Detective Hale, I forgive you. You were wrong, but I forgive you. Just promise me one thing. When she kills again, and she will, promise me you'll stop her this time." Her. Marcus felt ice flood his veins. Her. The injection began. Daniel's eyes closed. His chest rose and fell, then stopped. 11:17 p.m. Time of death. The families wept. Marcus sat frozen, Daniel's words echoing in his skull. When she kills again, she will. Stop her this time. Marcus couldn't sleep that night. Or the next. He pulled the case files from his garage, spread them across his dining room table. 15 years of dust and certainty now felt like 15 years of doubt. He reread every witness statement, every piece of evidence. Then he saw it. The security footage. The man in the maintenance uniform talking to the victims. Marcus had watched it 100 times, but always focused on the man. Now, he looked at the background. In 3 separate videos, barely visible, there was a woman. Same woman. Blonde, early 30s, standing 20 feet away, watching. Always watching. In one frame, she was holding something. Marcus enhanced the image until his hands shook. A white ribbon. He pulled the employment records from Riverside Community College. Maintenance staff, 2009. 8 employees, 7 men, 1 woman. Casey Lynn Bridger, age 34 at the time, worked the night shift. Quit 2 weeks after Daniel's arrest. No forwarding address. Marcus's heart hammered. He cross-referenced her name with DMV records, tax filings, anything. She'd vanished. New identity, new life. But Marcus had spent 2 decades hunting people who didn't want to be found. It took him for days. Casey Lynn Bridger now lived in Eugene, 2 hours south. She was a hospice nurse. Blonde hair dyed brown, now not married. Respectable. Marcus sat in his car outside her house, watching her water the garden, smile at neighbors. She looked so normal. But Marcus knew better. He contacted the Eugene Police Department, shared his findings. They were skeptical, but agreed to investigate. They pulled her DNA from a discarded coffee cup. Ran it against the cold case database. 3 hits. Unsolved murders. 2011, 2014, 2019. All in Eugene. All young brunette women. All strangled. All found with white ribbons. Marcus felt the world collapse. He'd killed an innocent man. Daniel Marsh died for crimes he didn't commit while the real killer walked free, killed again, and again, and again. The guilt was unbearable, suffocating. Casey Lynn Bridger was arrested on April 2, 2024. She confessed to all 7 murders. The 4 in Portland, the 3 in Eugene. She said she framed Daniel because he'd rejected her advances at work. She planted the ribbons in his apartment while fixing a leaky pipe. Simple, cruel, perfect. During interrogation, she smiled at Marcus through the glass and said, "You were so sure it was him. So confident. I watched you on the news talking about justice. It was beautiful." Marcus Hale resigned the next day. He couldn't carry the badge anymore. Couldn't look at himself in the mirror. He visits Daniel Marsh's grave every Sunday, lays white flowers, and apologizes to a man who can't hear him. The state of Oregon issued a posthumous exoneration. Daniel's name was cleared, but he was still dead. Justice came 15 years too late. And here's the part that will keep you awake tonight. During Casey's trial, forensic psychologists discovered something else. She kept journals, detailed plans for future victims, locations, names, faces. She had 34 more women selected. 34 lives that would have been taken if Marcus hadn't looked at that footage one more time. Daniel Marsh died innocent. But his final words, his plea to Marcus, saved 30 for people he would never meet. Sometimes the line between justice and tragedy is thinner than we think. And sometimes, the only thing standing between us and monsters is one detective willing to admit he was wrong. If this story shook you, you're not ready for what's coming next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Previously on the Riverside Strangler, Detective Marcus Hale, haunted by a case he thought was closed, received a chilling message. Daniel Marsh, the man convicted of the murders, wasn't the real killer. Now, a new lead has just landed on his desk. And it's about to blow this case wide open. Marcus sat in his dimly lit office, the city lights painting streaks across his window. In his hand was a small, unassuming USB drive. It had arrived in a plain envelope, sent by the cellmate of the now-deceased Daniel Marsh. He'd hesitated for a moment, the weight of what it might contain pressing down on him. With a deep breath, he plugged it into his laptop. The screen flickered, and a single file appeared, the ghost of Blackwood. The file contained a series of scanned documents, prison records, psychological evaluations, and faded newspaper clippings, all centered around one name, Casey Bridger. But this wasn't the Casey Bridger he knew, the seemingly innocent victim who had supposedly escaped the Riverside Strangler. This was a different person entirely. The documents painted a portrait of a cold, manipulative inmate from Blackwood Women's Correctional Facility, a place notorious for its violence. Marcus leaned closer, his eyes scanning the lines of text. According to the files, Casey had been the primary suspect in a string of unsolved murders inside Blackwood. Inmates, one by one, had been found in their cells, their deaths officially ruled as suicides. But the whispers in the prison corridors told a different story. They spoke of a ghost, a predator who moved unseen, leaving a trail of bodies. The file detailed how Casey had masterfully manipulated the system, feigning mental breakdowns and charming guards to get what she wanted. She was released early on a technicality, her records mysteriously sealed. His blood ran cold. The profile described in the file the methodical planning, the lack of empathy, the ability to blend in. It was a perfect match for the real Riverside Strangler. Daniel Marsh had been a pawn, a scapegoat, and Casey had been hiding in plain sight, playing the part of a victim. The next morning, Marcus bypassed official channels. He couldn't trust anyone, not yet. He drove to the retired warden of Blackwood, a man named Arthur Graves, who now lived in a quiet suburban home. Arthur was old and frail, but his eyes were sharp. When Marcus mentioned Casey Bridger's name, a shadow passed over the old man's face. Casey, Arthur sighed, looking out his window. She was the devil in a Sunday dress. We all knew she was responsible for those deaths. We just couldn't prove it. She was too smart. She'd get others to do her dirty work, turn inmates against each other. Evidence would disappear. Witnesses would recant their stories. It was like she had someone on the inside, protecting her. The words "someone on the inside" echoed in Marcus's mind. He thanked the old warden and left, a new piece of the puzzle clicking into place. If Casey had protection in prison, it stood to reason she had it on the outside too. Who in the department would have the power to seal her records and manipulate the original investigation? Marcus spent the next week digging through old case files, cross-referencing names, dates, and assignments. He was looking for a connection, a single thread linking Casey Bridger to the Riverside Police Department. He pulled up the duty rosters from the time of the original murders, his eyes darting across the page. And then he saw it. One name appeared again and again, always assigned to patrol the areas where the bodies were found, always one of the first officers on the scene. Officer Eric Tillman. Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. He knew Tillman. Eric was a respected officer, a guy everyone liked. He was a family man, coached his son's little league team. It couldn't be. But the evidence was undeniable. Tillman was the officer who had interviewed Casey after her supposed escape. His report was what cemented her status as a victim. He was also the one who had first pointed the finger at Daniel Marsh, providing a key piece of evidence that was later found to be planted. The conspiracy was bigger and darker than he could have ever imagined. Casey wasn't just a killer, she was a puppet master, and she had an accomplice within the police force. How many other victims were there? The official count for the Riverside Strangler was 5, but the prison file mentioned a string of unsolved murders. Driven by a new sense of urgency, Marcus created a timeline, linking Casey's time in Blackwood to the years following her release. He started looking at unsolved missing person cases and cold case files in the tri-state area, searching for the Strangler's signature method. The results were horrifying. He found 9 more cases, 9 more women, all matching the victim profile, all dismissed as runaways or accidents. The total was now 14 victims. 14 lives stolen by Casey and her accomplice. Marcus knew he couldn't confront Tillman directly. It was too risky. He needed irrefutable proof, something that would tie Tillman directly to Casey and the murders. He remembered what the warden had said about Casey getting others to do her dirty work. What if Tillman wasn't her only partner? The key had to be with Casey. He secured a warrant to search her apartment again, this time not as a victim's home, but as a killer's lair. The place was pristine, almost sterile, just as he remembered, but this time, he wasn't looking for signs of a struggle. He was looking for secrets. He spent hours searching, meticulously checking every inch of the apartment. He found nothing. Frustrated, he was about to leave when he noticed a loose floorboard under the rug in the bedroom. His heart pounded as he pried it open. Inside was a small, locked metal box. After forcing the lock, he lifted the lid. Inside wasn't a weapon or a trophy. It was something far more sinister. The box was filled with letters, dozens of them. They were recruitment letters, written in Casey's elegant, looping handwriting. They were addressed to individuals across the country, disenfranchised, angry people she had identified online and through social networks. The letters were masterpieces of manipulation. Casey preyed on their weaknesses, validating their rage and offering them a sense of purpose, a place in a new world order she was building. She was teaching them her methods, training them to become killers just like her. Each letter was a blueprint for murder, a guide on how to choose a victim, how to avoid detection, and how to feel powerful. Marcus felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't just about one serial killer or a corrupt cop. This was a network, a cult. Casey Bridger hadn't just been committing murders. She had been building an army of them. Tillman was likely just her first recruit. The Riverside Strangler case was just the beginning. As he stood there, holding the letters, a chilling realization washed over him. He had stopped Casey Bridger. He had uncovered Eric Tillman. But how many others were out there? How many more ghosts had she already unleashed upon the world? The case wasn't closed. A new, terrifying chapter had just begun. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive. The story of Casey Bridger is a stark reminder that the truth is often more complex and terrifying than we can imagine. If you found this investigation as compelling as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.